Hey everyone, CPJ64 here. How's it going? So, this is just going to be a quick video on how to create a very bare bones mod and upload it to the workshop for Atlas. Alright, so we've already downloaded our Atlas dev kit. Okay. Uh, as of right now, 2 p.m. Eastern on the 19th of January, you need to make a slight modification to your mod tools folder. Right, so you're going to come in here and you're going to right click on Steam VDF template, open it up with your favorite text editor, and you need to change the app ID to 834910. Alright, someone overlooked it at some point and didn't change it from the ARC app ID, so we just need to change it to the Atlas app ID. And then make sure you save it and close it out. And then to launch your dev kit, you're just going to regularly run the Atlas devkit.app. All right, don't run it as administrator. Just normal. Double click it and let it load up. Now, depending on your system, this will take a varying amount of time. Alright, so your interface might look a little tiny bit different than mine just because I'm showing the sidebar and I removed one of the panels just so I have more space. But don't worry about that. I'll show you how to get that in a second. I'll actually set this back up. Let's see. No, not levels. Alright, so yours should look like something like this. Maybe pushed over to the side a little bit. So our biggest thing is we want to wait before we do anything whatsoever in the kit for the discovering assets to completely finish. Alright. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, I'll show you this. So on this left-hand side below New, you'll see Show or Hide the Sources panel. That's just a directory listing. It makes traveling through the directories and files much easier and faster. Right. Up here, I don't really use them. I like to have the space to open up a second content browser myself. That way I'm not flipping through things. And you can grab these tabs, and you can see the little snap points. I usually just put it down here. And I like my columns. I find it makes it a little bit faster and easier for me to scroll through stuff. Alright, so now that we're done discovering all of the assets, first thing we need to do is we need to go and open up our mods folder, and you're going to see a few folders in here. Alright, now I've made a generic mod folder, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for primal game data. Right. Now we want to find primal game data underscore BP, and we want to left click, hold, and drag it to our generic mod folder. Create child here. Very important. Do not move it. Okay. Do not copy it. Child it. What that does is it inherits its settings and programming from the original. And that's going to take a little while. It's going to seem like it locks up. Most of the time it hasn't. The way you verify this is you open up your task manager and you watch the memory usage. As long as the memory usage is still going up, then you're okay. Alright? That's going to take a few moments. And just to give you an idea, this is a i7-8700K and 32 gigs of RAM, and this is on a 970 Pro 1TB NVMe drive. So the faster that your system is, the easier this is going to go, but the dev kit is a beast regardless. Alright, there we go. See, it's kicking right off now. Alright, so what's going to happen after you child file it, okay, is it's automatically going to open. Now I recommend that you clear out of what you searched, that way you don't accidentally do anything with it. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to rename this to generic mod. There we go. So once it's renamed, we're going to go and give our mod a name. We're going to call it generic mod, and the mod description, we're just going to name it a generic mod. Alright, so what do we want this generic mod to do? First off, let's find ourselves a nice safe area to test our stuff in. So we're going to click on the maps directory, and we're going to drag test map area into our generic mod folder. We're going to copy this time. So the test map area is loaded. If you look down here in the center of your screen, this is what we call Pi, the plugin editor. All right, it loads your test map area when you open up the kit. All right, so what we're doing is we're making a copy of it because your primal game data is like the heart and soul of your actual mod, right? It's that brain. So everything in your mod gets linked up to that primal game data, and that primal game data has to be available to the map, right? So in this case, it's the test map area. That's the name of our map, for us to be able to do everything inside of it. All right, so once that's done copying, what we're going to do is we're going to just append the name to it. So we're going to go underscore generic mod and let that rename. Okay, so now we have our generic mod test map. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click it, and we don't need to save this, but it isn't really going to matter because it's empty anyways. Right, we haven't done anything inside of it. There's some kind of link between the test map areas. I've never really investigated, but I've always saved or don't save. It doesn't make a difference because I don't do any work in the test map area. I always copy it, and I do my work in my mod's test map area. That way everything is unique to that folder. So if I break something, I can always just copy in a new test map area and relink the primal game data. Simple as that. So while we're waiting on this stuff, one thing I would definitely recommend you all go and check out is the Atlas modding website. As time goes on, you'll see a lot of really good information on here. To access the modding Discord, all you're going to do is come here to useful links, Atlas modding Discord. It's going to ask you to verify your Steam. Make sure you don't have your profile set to private, otherwise you won't be able to. And you'll see wiki and all sorts of really good stuff. And in the modding Discord, there's a lot of very, very good people. Devs are in there sometimes, well, frequently. and it's a really good community. So I definitely recommend you join. All right, so we've opened up our test map error generic mod. All right, so what we want to do, we'll just minimize that. I'm going to come up here to settings, click world settings. Now we're going to select our primal game data BP generic mod. And we're going to come here to the right to the primal world settings, scroll down to where it says primal game data override, and we're just going to insert that into there. And then we're just going to hit save. Right? Okay, so now we have a test level that's prepped specifically for our mod. So what should we do? Let us make a sword. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the game directory, and we're going to do search, and we're going to do sword. All right, so you see we have all of these items, all of these assets, right? We're going to make it a little bit easier. We're going to hit filters. We're going to hit blueprint. So what we want to do is we want to find the sword, which is going to be right here, a primal item, Y-arc weapon sword. What we can do is we double click it and look inside. One of your favorite friends is going to be this little eyeball on the right hand side. Show only modified. Okay, so we see our sword icon and see our weapon template. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go and drag this up here to our generic mod folder. We're just going to hit copy here. And then we want to find our weapon template. So we can just hit this little browse to asset in content browser. Okay, it takes us right there and highlights it for us. Makes it really easy to find. I'm going to drag this up here to generic mod. We're going to copy that in. Now while we're here, let's open it up and see what's inside. So we're going to do show only modified. And this is going to give us our skeletal meshes. So if we wanted to change, the mesh of the sword to something else, we can do that right here. We can change the weapon type. We change all sorts of things. Right. So in our case, we don't want to change anything ever that is a original file. We only want to change our copied files, or if you understand the difference, your child files. Right, so what we're going to do is we want to go and add a name that's different. So we're going to say my generic sword is our descriptive name base. Right? We want this thing to be really heavy because we're going to buff its damage. Right? So we're going to make this 100. And enter. And then next thing we want to do is we want to change the colors or make it not paintable. All right, we're going to say, okay, from region 0, we don't want people to be able to paint region 0. I'm not entirely sure where it is, but we're going to change what region that we want to be painted. All right, so crafting requires inventory reporting. This is going to be an important one because this says what inventory this has to be crafted in. All right. In this case, it has to be crafted in the smithy. So what we want to do is we want to actually add our sword into the smithy, the vanilla smithy. We don't want to have to make a whole bunch of different crafting stations. What we're going to do is go back into our primal game data, BP, generic mod, and we're just going to do a quick search for append. Right, we have this wonderful thing that's just new with Atlas. It's different from Arc. Additional inventory component appends. So we want to add an element, right? And expand this up. And we want to go inventory component classes, add that, and add items. All right. And now for our inventory component classes, I recommend that you don't click the drop down unless you're not really sure what has to go there. It's a lot easier just to search for it. So always want to make sure when you're searching you're at the top level, otherwise you might not find what you're looking for. So we know this is the smithy, so let's just type in smithy. And we know that this is the inventory component. So we want to primal inventory, BP, smithy, Or we can do this really awesome thing. You select an asset from content browser. I'm just going to check that in. All right, now we want to add our item. So we're going to come up here to our modded item. And I like to append a tag to the end. So we're just going to say this is _GM for generic mod. Now when you rename this asset, it's going to save it automatically. I recommend you save often. You never know when things are going to happen. So we're going to add in our primal item, wire weapon sword, _GM, to be crafted in the smithy. So what this is doing, this is adding a crafting entry into the vanilla smithy for our custom sword. Okay, I'm going to save our primal item. So now we want to go back into our sword, and we didn't change our weapon template. Well, to increase our damage, we need to make a weapon template. So we're going to use our weapon template. Once again, highlight, and you select it. Saves a lot of time. Alright, so now, save. We're going to open up our weapon template. Now we just want to modify damage. So let's type in damage and see what comes up. So we have damage multipliers, weapon damage types that this weapon blocks. Oh, here we go. Melee damage amount. So we made this a lot heavier. So let's make this do, oh, it was 10, we made it 100. So let's just do 900. Seems like a completely fair number. Totally over. Alright, so next, we made our change to our damage. Just scroll through really quick to make sure that we didn't miss any other damage types. We're going to save. Now if you go to components, you'll see this is our actual static mesh. You can hold right click, and you can kind of maneuver through here with your WASD keys and with your scroll wheel, but it's kind of hard to control it sometimes. Alright, so now that we have that, we're going to go and close out of those. Now we want to make an engram, right, from Arc. We want to make a skill from Atlas. Alright, so now we want to search for skill. Now, the swords, I believe, are learned from, let's see if we can, I have the skill tree up here. If you go to the Atlas Gamepedia, they have a skills tree that makes life a lot easier, so you don't have to have the game open at the same time. So it's called Basics of One-Handed Weapons. So basics of, so I'm not seeing it. So what we're going to instead do is we're just going to type in let's type in handed. There we go. So we have skill two-handed studies and secrets. Okay, so we want to find the basics of one-handed weapons. Sometimes things can be named a little. Yep. So right here, I have a feeling it's going to be skill sword. Yep. So it gives access to basic one-handed weapons. Description uses basics of one-handed weapons. All right. So what we want to do is go and change the engram description. Oh well, we don't want to change anything right here. What we want to do is we want to go and copy that. So we're going to drag that and copy here to our generic mod folder. And we're just going to append that underscore GM tag to the end so we know that it's our file. So let's open up that. We're going to go and change this. So gives access to crafting. You can put your actual description here. I'm going to put my super generic sword. Exclamation marks. Now, engram items. So actually, engram requirement sets. So we want to lock this behind another skill. So that way you're tiering this, right? So we don't want you to be able to get this OP sword right off the bat. We want you to learn how to make the original sword first. So let's go back to our original sword file, okay? And we're gonna say, hey, the engram requirement to learn my new awesome sword is gonna be skill sword, which is the basics of one-handed weapons. Now, engram items. See, we have some. This is pointing still towards the original sword. Well, I want it to point to my new OP sword, so we're going to select this. And remember what I was saying, it just makes it easier when you see your tag on the end. And our discipline. So our discipline is pretty important. The discipline is going to be where it actually sits in your skill tree. All right, so we want this to be under swordsmanship. And our description, their descriptive name base. We're going to call this super generic sword. We could give it a name. I'm going to save. I'm going to go back into our primal game data, and we're going to type in additional engram. Right, so you see right here we have additional engram blueprint classes. We want to add an element, and we're going to go to our skill sword underscore GM and insert right there, and we're going to save. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to hit play. We're going to test this. Okay, so first off, we don't have enough points or anything to learn anything, so we're going to use admin commands. So we don't have to type in cheat because this is the development console. So we want to do give exp. Oh, no, it's add exp. That's the easy. Add experience. We're just going to type in some C number. That's going to level 7. Sorry for how loud that is. We're just going to dump a bunch of points into a single skill so we get some points, skill points. We're going to go to our skill tree. And I'm actually going to make this larger for you. So you can hit F11 to go full screen. Right. Skills. So to get our sword, we need to open up the sword tree. So I want to say it's advanced tools. This. We want to unlock melee weaponry, because that's the swordsmanship. Let all this stuff go. Alright, so basics of one-handed swords is our prerequisite to learning our super generic sword. Alright. So now that we have that, we need to go and get ourselves a smithy. So a great way to do this is to type in GCM, and you just open up the inventory, and this is give creative. So we want to first get ourselves a floor. And we want to give ourselves a smithy. We'll just place this down. We're going to look in the smithy's inventory. And we want to do a search for sword. And so there's the vanilla sword. And here's our generic sword. Okay. So just double clicking on this isn't doing anything. So what you want to do is open up the console. Now to open the console in Pi, you type the tilde key. You're going to type in give resources. I might have to do that once or twice. I'm just putting this in there. Sword. Now we have the resources to craft our super sword. Just drag that. So now we have our super sword. So it's no fun, testing stuff out by yourself. So let's go and bring ourselves a sheep to fight, because who doesn't like fighting sheep? So we're just going to type sheep into our filter, and what we want to look for is sheep character BP. Right click, spawn dino, new game, untamed. And I have a feeling I didn't actually. Yeah, so that's one of the ARC ones. So we need Atlas sheep. So there's a lot of ARC resources in here that aren't really mapped anymore, but they're still there. So we did our Atlas sheep, and let's, we're gonna fight this sheep. So boom. So we can see our weapon is doing damage, and we have our charge. Everything is working how it seems to be working, and how it needs to work. Oh, and we missed. But the whole point is everything works. So to escape out of Pi, you're going to hit the escape key. And I'd say now we're ready to go and cook our mod. So what you want to do is hit Steam Upload. And on the left-hand side, you're going to click, obviously in your case, it's going to be the name of your mod. For this example, it's going to be generic mod. Now, the difference between Atlas and ARC, from everything I've read and from the mods that I've already published, you don't need a maps file for just a plain mod, right? And from also what I've been told, the test mod output directory, aka local cooking, doesn't work right now. It seems to be broken. So we're going to do a live cook. So we need to select a picture. So let's just we'll grab, the icon for my No More Minigames mod. And we're going to title this generic mod. I'm going to give it a description. A super sword. So generic. And now visibility is kind of important, especially if you don't want people to see what you're doing while you're still developing the mod, but you want to be able to cook it and test it and see how it performs on the actual server. So we're going to have this set up as public, and for our change notes, we're just going to type in initial, cook, and upload. So this gets a lot of people. Reset publisher, reset mod GUID. Reset publisher goes and changes the actual mod's ID number. You don't want to do that, unless except in extreme circumstances. But reset mod GUID, the majority of the time you're going to want to do that because that forces a mod version mismatch. Okay, so that forces everyone to download the latest version of the mod and have the same version of the mod. Okay, so we're just going to click that a few times, and we want to hit Cook Game Mod. And that's going to take, depending on how large your mod is, how complicated the graphing is, how many meshes, textures, all that stuff comes into play on how long it actually takes your mod to cook. I want to say my multivitamin mod is like, I want to say it's less than a meg, and it took about 15 minutes. So we're just going to let this go in really quick. Alright, so our mod finished going and cooking. So now what we want to do is we want to upload. So a couple things can happen. If you have Steam Guard enabled, you're going to have to make sure that you have your email open and ready, so that way you can authenticate. If you don't, then I'm pretty sure you have to have Steam Guard enabled for the workshop these days. We're just going to put on our username and password. Steam command is going to launch, do its thing. And our upload's done. And you can tell if it's finished. You see view item on Steam Workshop. And there we go. We now have our generic mod. So you can see all of your published items by just above your name you see the workshop. Alright. Now if you messed up, you want to delete your mod, you can edit the title and description, photos, and all that stuff. Contributors, links, delete. Make sure if other people help you, you go and you give them some credit, because, you know, plagiarism is cool, and it's a pretty tight-knit community, so we all try to take care of each other. So give kudos to those that, you know, help you out. So I'm just going to delete this because it's just a generic mod. And that's how you cook and upload a mod. Enjoy.